All right, good evening. Welcome to the live stream concert. Glad you could tune in. I know some of you are probably doing bedtimes right now, or you got other things, supper, or going for a walk, or have some friends going for a bike ride. So welcome if you've come to join. I'm going to start off with this song. It's called Great Congregation. Well, I'm propped up by prayers and petitions. From the youngest to eldest, I'm told. My soul is afloat by the cries of the bold. Every plea on this lonely old road. I'm held up by faith and confusion, of wishes and wanderings both. And hope strong and light turns to cries in the night. All these questions of why we won't know. And we don't choose our stories or endings, but we see this great cloud that surrounds. I'm lifted by angels' elbows, miraculous, tireless crowds. The prophets, the priests, all the keepers of dreams. When you can't see the road for yourself, I'm buoyed up by brothers and brethren, the service of sister and saint. I'm spurred by the words of the wisdom that's learned in the stories passed down through the age. I'm steadied and carried to mercy by the current of love and good tide. The great congregation, all the givers and bringers of light. The great congregation, keeping vigil through our darkest night. Well, I'm carried by friends and by strangers, or at least those I never have met. I'm dropped through the roof, landing right here with you, with nothing to do to say. I'm held down by heavenly offerings when long I had drifted away. I'm set fast and secure to the love that endures, passed from bloodlines to me along the way, from descendants to those yet to journey, from the great cloud that's gathered on a high. The great congregation, all the givers and bringers of light. Great congregation, keeping vigil through our darkest night. Ushered and brought here to safety, and kept in this harbor of rest. I've nothing to do but believe that it's true, that the season of rest is the thing that I love's best. Though I'm dying for daily, yet I'm learning to stay where I am, in this great congregation. Well, welcome. That song was written a few years ago when I had a concussion in 2016. You can imagine, as a musician, you don't have a benefit plan. The benefits are you can take off time whenever you want, but there's not really a benefit plan if something happens. And when I hit my head, at first I thought I'd get better, in the first few weeks. So that didn't happen. And one of the first things that happened, though, is I had to cancel gigs. And my buddy Jacob Moon filled in for a gig for me. And he did the whole gig. I was so relieved that someone like him would do it. And when it was over, he sent me the check for the gig. I was like, wow, okay, this is a whole new way of doing gigs. But then from there, it just kept trickling in, or pouring in, or flooding in. Steve Bell, Kev Loughton, a bunch of friends got together and started raising support. And suddenly my first couple months were covered for work and for paying for the house and all that. And my church, Little Trinity, was absolutely amazing. Sometimes places of faith get really bad raps, but I'm telling you, my great congregation, they just went above and beyond. I remember one time looking out my window, and I saw this lineup of cars down the street, waiting to drop things off. It was just unbelievable, the pouring of support. Steve Gordon, if you're watching, happy anniversary. You volunteered to give Jody the best Mother's Day she's ever had, and you picked up flowers and ordered them and had them delivered. And my friends just again and over, just it was amazing. And when we come together, when we see a need and we come together, something very powerful can happen. I think we've seen that this week in the news. People coming together, seeing something, a huge need, a massive vacuum, and coming together and saying, we're going to do something about this. And when we come together and look out for those around us, something powerful happens. This next song I'm going to do is a Sting cover. I was a big Sting fan growing up. I loved him, so much so a lot of my friends say I sounded like him, not as good, but sort of had that thing going on. I think Jason Hillebrand still says that. But anyway, I'm going to do a song called SOS, and it's sort of my prayer for what's going on in the world. I'll dedicate it to George Floyd and his memory. We're thinking this week, it's just been heartbreaking and horrific watching the news and seeing how far we have to go as a society. Seeing the divides, how big they still are, seeing the violence. It's been really hard to watch. And so we send up this SOS, and together we can change this. I know it's going to take some time. Steve Bell says the first thing we do is when we see horror around us in the news, we look for those around us who who have need. And so that's a great starting place. SOS. There's no words, but if you're at home, you can sing along if you know the SOS part. A few years ago, I released an album called Nudging Forever, and this one is a night prayer. It's called Vigil. Middle shirt button is open. Let's check that out. Oh, look at that. Well, I'm as hairless as a mole, so I just have to keep that shut. Sorry, I should have warned viewers. I should have had a rating on this thing. All right. It's better to know halfway through, though. There's still some good songs coming up, so. I'm working on a new album these days out of the Psalms. Psalms, as some of you know, are these ancient prayers, and in them are wrapped up the entire human experience of anger, sadness, joyfulness, anxiety, just about anything that you can find. And this one I'm going to play for you is called Provision. It's out of Psalm 107, and it talks about people just going through what we go through in life. We go through these ups and downs. We sometimes start out strong, and we end up drowning in deep darkness or in fear or anxiety. It talks about hunger, physical and spiritual and mental, and all those kinds of different things that we go through, sickness, darkness, and it just talks about how in each of those seasons that God hears us. And it's a very powerful thing to be heard, to be really heard, like truly heard. So this is Provision, Psalm 107. We have wandered in this wasteland. We have little left to live. We are hungry, we are thirsty, we are desperate for the manna that you give. We are worried, we are anxious. We are sparrows, we are spent. Like the lilies of clothing splendor, won't he also drape his children radiant? You satisfy, you satisfy. You hear our cry deep in the night. We set out on top to conquer, and we sailed the mighty seas. We were able, we were younger. By the end, we were begging for our lives down on our knees. We are lost in utter darkness. We are shackled to our sin. We are chained down, we are captive, but you cut the bars and broke the jail within. You satisfy, you satisfy. You hear our cry deep in the night. It's your grace, it's your grace each day, each hour. It's your grace. It's the unexpected shower. It's your grace. It's your grace, our lives sustaining. It's the mercy found each morning. You satisfy, you satisfy. You hear our cry, you will provide. You satisfy, you satisfy. Safe harbor, safe harbor, you brought us here. 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 Yeah, and for those of you who don't feel like things are going to lift or things have gotten a little heavy, hang in there. Things are going to get better. There is safe harbor. There is peace. And there's rest for all of our weariness in this world today. Well, a few years ago, oh boy, it's almost 2 years ago now. June is a special month for me. I've been out of the hospital for 2 years, which is amazing. When I was born, some of you might not know this, but when I was born, I had a ruptured diaphragm, and my whole ability to breathe and do anything was wrecked. And they told my parents it's not looking good, but miraculously somehow I pulled through the surgery. And even when I was an adult, I remember meeting a doctor from New York who said, "How old are you?" And I told him my age, and he said, "What surgery did you have?" And I told him about my ruptured diaphragm, and he looked at me very quietly and said, "We lost every one of you, every one." So I was one of the first to actually make it, from the surgery. Now it's maybe a little more routine, still scary. But as I've grown older, I've had some stomach issues with that, and I landed up in emergency a few times. So I met with my doctor, a surgeon, and he said, let's do some surgery. It's laparoscopic. So to me, laparoscopic meant like a paper cut or something like that, like just, something really minimal, non-invasive. So I didn't even really think about it. I didn't worry about it. My head was still pretty dizzy. And I thought, while I'm recovering from this concussion, let's sign up for some surgery. I've got a couple months. I'm not doing anything. I can't play any gigs, so let's try it. So I went in, and after the surgery, my wife met me, and you don't have a clue what happens in those hours that you're out, but she met me beside my bed and said, that took quite a long time. I'm like, is that a good thing? And she said, I think it's really great. So I said, okay. A few days later, I was home, and as the days progressed, I just started feeling worse and worse. And it got to the point too, I would just take a little sip of water, and my whole gut would just clench up in huge pain. And so I was like, I think I got to go back. So I went back to Emerge, and they looked at me, and they did a scan, and things were really, really messed up. So they said, okay, we'll book them into the hospital until things get better and clear up. But things just weren't getting better, and I ended up going almost a month without eating. Maybe it was over a month without eating. They had food put into my artery in my heart, and it was just a horrible time in the hospital. There were some really bad days, and I don't know how I got through it sometimes. And on Canada Today, I was looking out over the city, feeling very sorry for myself. There was like fireworks, beautiful fireworks lighting up the sky all over the city. I was on the 10th floor of this hospital, beautiful, beautiful spot. But I just couldn't enjoy it because I just felt so sad. I wanted to be home with my family, and I just felt lonely. And I thought about it, and I suddenly felt this peace come over me and realized I wasn't alone. That God is with us wherever we go. But also, I had a great hospital staff that were looking out for me, that were taking care of me, that were gently nursing me to health. And I had some amazing friends. James Ree, he came visited me every day in the hospital. Hugh Brewster, a whole bunch of other people came. My wife, obviously. And but it was just such a heartbreaking time, and I was so lucky to have friends around me. Just so lucky. I felt extremely blessed that way. So I'm going to sing this song. It's called You're Never Alone. And when we're going through hard things, we sort of need to do it together. I learned that. I'm not always very good at that, and my friends showed me that. And especially with what we're going through now with the racial inequality that's been happening, we need each other, right? We need each other's voices, each other's wisdom to get through this and to make a difference. So we're never alone. Here it is. I think this is the second time I played it, so I think I got rid of my button, right? My button's all... We're good? Nothing else? Okay. I was staring through windows, looking out over city lights. I was up on the 10th floor. I was watching with heartbreak, seeing fireworks light the sky, wishing I could be home with you. What I did, would we ever choose? It was tonic for healing. In this time, gotta wait things out. And you shuffle down hallways, and you stare down these corridors, and you head to your empty room. You're never alone. You're never tonight. It takes a shot on our freedom, go without so that others live. There's a price on the vulnerable. With a village you have a shot, many hands and a cheering crowd. Lend your voice to the choir song, and we're never alone. We're never alone tonight. We're never alone. The sun will burst through the night. Down on us tonight, no matter where. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I'm going to be not as long as sometimes. But I'm going to end with this one. This is called Bit by Bit. I recorded it with George Kohler, Kevin Turcott, Davide Dorenzo. So if this version goes terrible, you can check that out on YouTube. With quarantining, obviously musicians, you know, there's some challenges to making music, and we're used to playing in front of people, and that usually really helps us come alive. So, but it's nice having you tuning in, and actually it does make a big difference doing it live than not. So thank you. All right, is there anything else I need to say about this? I don't think so. This is a recovery song for my concussion. For back in the days when I really wanted to dance with my daughters, and I couldn't because my head hurt too much. But now I'm able to be dancing Janzen again, and I'm so thankful for that. And the song really, the message of the song really is just that some things take a lot of time. We're people who really want things fast. And sometimes healing takes a long time. And for our society and for, especially for the pandemic, you know, some days have to take time and there's stages. Things are improving, but it's going to be a bit of push and pull the next little bit. Love ya, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Oh yeah, I need to sing this one. Bit by bit, I'm getting my life back. Inch by inch, I'm traveling down the right track. Bit by bit, bit by bit. Better days are knocking on my door. Tapping feet, I'm moving to the dance floor. Bit by bit, oh, bit by bit. Step by step, mile by mile, day by day. You put one foot in front of the next one and see where you go. Check the gate, I'm booked on the next flight. Taking off, we're traveling to new heights. Bit by bit, step by step, mile by mile, day by day. and see where you go. Step by step, mile by mile, it's gonna get you to the other side, babe. Bumps in the road soon come and go. You put one foot in front of the next one and see where you go. God bless. Have a great night.